Hey everybody, Tony D. Little Jones asleep on the couch. This is the last video of the evening, the fourth video. The genderbread person. I saw this teaching tool thing. It was floating around on Twitter. Somebody's kid brought this home, I assume. I guess this is to teach the wacky woke leftist gender identity that everybody has, nobody has. We're all blank slates. We're not blank slates. The left seems to always want to say there are no labels. Don't put a label on everything. And then what do? They put out a thing like this with dozens of labels. Um, I don't think this is totally useless information for someone who has gender dysphoria, has questions in this area. This might be fine for a senior or junior level class in sex ed, but it seems to be aimed a little younger than that, and that to me would be too much. But I think the educational system has bigger problems than teaching this very sort of narrow slice of the population who may have issues in this area. And it is a small area, despite what the woke will have you believe, and Twitter. You know, and just because it's a small amount of people doesn't mean it's not important to those people. It is. It's very important to them. But not everybody is obsessed with gender like the people on Twitter or the people who have these issues. And in fact, some of the people who have these issues are not obsessed with gender. they they have their issues and they're taking care of it, and that's why they're transitioning. So yeah, but this is kind of a personal decision for people, and it's fine to give, I think, students information and to be there to listen to them if they want to be heard. But what I object to is the people in the woke left pushing and pushing and pushing this so hard. They're pushing it way too hard. And they think they're doing good by doing that. It's because it's not about the people they're trying to supposedly help. It's about them. It's about them virtue signaling. Look how wonderful a person I am. Look what I'm teaching in class. And it's about them. And this happens every generation. Some old person decides, I'm going to talk to the kids. I know what the kids like. Hey, kids, here's the genderbread person. And all the kids kind of roll their eyes and laugh, and they have no respect for you because you're pushing a very obvious agenda. They're not stupid. They may have questions, but they're not going to talk to you because they can sense that you're making their problem about you. And it's really about them. They just want somebody to listen to them. Most people, when you're a teenager, you're trying to figure things out. You're trying to find an identity for yourself. And I can relate to people who are in that very tiny slice of the population because I was a misfit in high school, total misfit. And in college, too. They called me the odd man out. That was one of my titles. That was one of my many, many nicknames. Tony D, odd man out. And, it's because I was contrarian or whatever. I mean, I didn't have these specific issues, but I had my own issues. And in some extent, I reveled in being the different guy. That was my role. That was half my personality, being the different guy, being a total weirdo. And some of these kids will too. So they don't need to have you try to recruit other people for them. They figured out they're a weirdo all on their own. And I don't mean weird as a bad thing. Weird is a good thing. Being unique is a good thing. So, but we have all these woke leftists who are pushing and pushing and pushing this. Like, this is good. This is good. And there are some kids who are weak, who are looking for any kind of validation, and they'll become gender trenders. And gender trenders are going to just hop on board the genderbread person. Oh, yeah, I'm trans too. And for them, it's not a real thing. For them, it's a phase. For some people, it's a real issue that they have to deal with their whole lives. But for some people, it's just a trend. And it's created partly because of these woke leftists pushing and pushing way too hard. Because it's really about them and not the people they supposedly try to help. It's about them looking virtuous. Oh, I have a trans kid in my class. Oh, and I taught everybody about trans people. That's not necessarily what the trans kid wants. You know, if you're trans, it's already hard enough to deal with. You don't need your teacher pointing to you and having everybody in the class look at you. You just want to be accepted as a normal person. So, I don't know if this is going to help anybody. Most of what this handout, I guess you'd call it, deals with is stuff that's very personal to people. And so it'd be fine for like a counselor to have, you know, various tools and information for a kid who has questions. But you can't just foist it upon everybody, because for some kids, they're just going to be in on it because, again, they want to please authority figures. Some kids are just going to make fun of it because they're a-holes, and that's how they deal with things. And some kids are genuinely interested, but if you're going to push it on everybody, then they're kind of like, I don't want to be involved. The odd kids are the shy ones, and they need to know that you can listen. That's the important thing. The listening is the important thing. You may just have a kid who just needs to come in and vent about life. May not have any real problems at all, other than nobody rarely hears them. And if you look at the kids who unfortunately go off the deep end, that was 90% of their problem. No one would listen to them. No one would hear them. No one, would really. They just need a sounding board to have someone say, "Oh, you're not that weird. You're not that weird, and you'll figure this all out, and it's gonna all be okay. You're having a rough time, but everybody kind of does." And I mean, that's and being trans is a tough thing, but for some kids, maybe that's all they need to hear too. Even a trans kid who's dealing with a lot more, they might just need to vent too. And we live in a very tolerant society. Back in the day, maybe not so much because people just didn't understand, but we live in the West. And the West is extremely tolerant of these things, despite what the woke left would tell you. So all I'm saying is calm down. Just calm down with this stuff and stop pushing it on people, because by pushing it on people, and understand, again, it's a tiny slice of the population that really needs this information. The rest doesn't need it foisted upon them. They might need to know about it, but they're not all going to agree with it. A lot of this is controversial. It's not scientific at all. So you're going to have to, and it's complicated, so you're going to have to key this up in a very specific area of your high school when kids are older and can at least comprehend some of it. Not when the kids are little, when genderbread person is going, if you're teaching this to preteens, I mean, I'd have to question your sanity. It's too early for them. They're kids, and they should get to be kids and not have to deal with all this complicated stuff. Unlike you woke teachers, they're not as gender obsessed as you are. And this is, part of this woke leftism. I mean, I've been saying for years, it's a trend. It's a trend. And when the trend dies, you're going to be left with all these rules and all these things that are totally unnecessary, that'll actually make it harder for people who are trans to deal with life, because you're still going to be pushing trans on everybody when you just need to have, a few counselors available, people to hear their problems deal with whatever, and you just need the barest of information so that people go, oh, there are trans people? Oh, okay. That's it. That's all they need to know. Oh, there's some people who are, they're confused about their gender and they have gender dysphoria. Oh, okay. That's it. It's like one class. Trying to teach kids and like giving them a whole gender studies degree in high school is too much. There's so much they don't teach in high school, and I've been there and I worked in schools as a sub, and I saw it. I saw it firsthand. These kids have no idea what things cost. None. I had a class, I guess it was about 7th or 8th grade, and we had some time, and I was like, well, what do you guys, let's write down what you guys are going to be at occupation wise. And we're writing down all the occupations, and they were all like race car driver, actress, singer. And I was like, great, but you can't just be a singer right away, a race car driver. You got to work for a while. Like, yeah, we'll get jobs. Like, you guys know what stuff costs. And I started writing down things like rent and phone bill and other bills and stuff, and like the numbers started to add up, and I said, here's what it'll cost you a month to live. And they were like, what? I said, one kid was like, oh, I'm going to live in a house when I move out of my parents. I go, well, I don't know if you're going to be able to afford a house. And I started showing them the math, and they were like, so that kind of stuff, I mean, that's really important to teach a kid, you got to get a job, and you got to be a little bit focused, in the future. Sure, this stuff might be important to a few kids, but the job and their future is important to all the kids. So that takes precedent. This is enough for the school counselors to handle, because there's only going to be, in a school of a few hundred kids, how many trans kids are you going to be dealing with? Maybe 5, and there's plenty of other kids who they're not going to be trans, but there'll be oddballs too. So it's just another, it's not going to be a clique. Trans kids aren't going to be big enough to be a clique. There just won't be enough of them. The stats, prove me right. So I think wokies, slow your roll. Stop pushing this on children, because it's not that any of this information is bad. It's just that you pushing it so hard is going to make people resent it and push back. And then you're going to be dealing with problems, and then you're going to be dealing with, oh, why are you so transphobic? People aren't transphobic. They resent people who push agendas. Most people aren't transphobic, okay? They just don't care. And you can't interpret people who just don't care. Oh, you're trans, I don't care. You can't interpret that as being transphobic. Just because I don't want to be involved with every other person's personal issues doesn't mean I'm transphobic. One of the reasons my friend who's trans, one of the reasons we stayed friends for so long is she told me she was trans, and I was like, okay, whatever. We got to sell some comics today. It wasn't a big deal to me. I was like, oh, that's your business. I don't care. And that's the attitude. But when you make it like this and you point at kids and you say, oh, look, trans people, oh, I'm helping them. You're making a big deal. You're throwing a parade for someone who doesn't want a parade. They want to take care of their personal issues. And it's a personal issue. So stop turning it into your cause celebre, whatever you call it. Stop virtue signaling. That's what we want you to stop. Stop the damn virtue signaling. Just do the work. Don't ask for thanks. Don't ask for awards. Just do it. Just help people and shut up. Just help people. Stop asking for awards. Stop tweeting about it. Stop posting about it. No one cares. Just help the damn kid and do your job.